$600 an acre for the water assessment every year. That's over $4,000 per acre. But I'd like to make a comment and then my question. Congressman Costa said we need more water. That's a public relations nightmare for us. We really don't want more water. We want the water that we're contracted to get, our water, delivered to us. Okay? Because the public sees us as wanting to take more water. That's not the question. What is the total timeline for the National Academy of Sciences review? Total year, 2 years, that's restricting our water deliveries. And if the study has merit, it seems only right that while the review is ongoing, Congress should suspend the controversial ESA biological restrictions so the CBP and our state water contractors can deliver our water while the review is going on. Or the review, maybe it doesn't have merit. If it does, suspend it and give these people the ability to deliver our water while it's on.
Very good comment, sir. Just as a point of reference, Mr. Pombo and I, 4 years ago, before the water crisis became the crisis, tried to amend and fix the ESA Act. We got it through the House, and it failed in the Senate. And at that time, a fellow from Rhode Island, a Republican from Rhode Island, actually killed it in his committee when he was the chair. So we have tried to fix this for a long time. It's a very difficult thing to do. But you made some very salient points with regard to biological opinions. I'd like Rod McGinnis to come up. Congressman, do you have something to say, please?
You know, I just wanted to commend you, Russ, the merit about the NAS study, and if that in March, when they have the preliminary draft report, indicates that in fact it's flawed, as you and I believe it's flawed, there ought to be an action that can be taken at that time. And we're looking at that right now. But who wants to give us the timeline for the National Academy of Science? Rod, or you did?
Okay, come on.
The March 15th report will definitely address 2 issues, and it should be final on those 2 issues. The first issue is, are there conflicts in the 2 biological opinions, the salmon and the smelt biological opinions? And the other, perhaps of more relevance to all you folks, is are there other methods that can comply with the law to protect the species and at the same time allow a greater level of exports? And we don't know what the National Academy of Science will say, but they are committed to saying it by March 15th. And I can assure you that from the Department of the Interior and the Fish and Wildlife perspective, as soon as we get that report, Fish and Wildlife Service will do whatever is appropriate as rapidly as possible to follow whatever recommendations they have. Again, we don't know what the recommendations are. Congressman
Miller had a press release that he thought it was going to take 18 months or 2 years.
The other part of the NAS study, the longer term, is much broader in scope. It will look at issues that go into the entire Bay Delta ecosystem that should in part be fed into the Bay Delta conservation planning process, although that process is a bit ahead of the NAS, but it will look more broadly at issues, and that's where the 18-month period comes in. That would be 18 months after the first report is done. Rob, do you want to add anything?
But you're talking about 2 separate things,
well,
right? The first study
they are.
is just studying the existing biological opinion, but it doesn't include anything to do with unstressed, just reviewing the first biological opinions.
The way the report was framed was they would definitely look at the biological opinions by March 15th, and time and resources permitting, they would get to other stressors in that time period. So they might be able to provide some information or a whole report on other stressors. I can't tell whether they'd be able to do that or not.
But we are pushing the But the study that Dennis asked for, that's the one that we're not going to get a completion for 2 years.
Well, that's some of the part that we've complained about. Now, they told us, Jim and I have been in contact with them on a weekly basis, advocating that they need to put every available resource on this problem. And I understand time constraints, but I also understand, and I'm just sharing with you what we share with them publicly on a very regular basis, that we have curtailed water deliveries substantially Last year was the shortest year that anyone's seen. And despite the fact that we convinced the Bureau and others to reallocate almost 500,000 acre-feet of water, the size of Lake McClure, and move that water, despite that fact, we still saw the devastation of the valley and the species didn't recover. So to me, that's prima facie evidence that there's something else going on. Now, the Sacramento Bee and others have done some studies that have indicated that there are, and I think Berkeley was part of this as well, that has indicated that there are many other stressors going on in the river. We've added several million people living around the delta. The effluent from the treatment plants goes in the river. Pesticide from those urban uses that aren't controlled. Like farmers are controlled, urban uses typically aren't controlled. So if you put pesticide on your lawn to kill a grub or a whatever, because you've got something that can flow into the river through the storm drainage system in the cities. All these other things are probably, in my opinion, the cause, because the pumps ran for a number of years before we saw any degradation to fish. And so, in my feeble mind, it makes sense to me that there are other things going on here. And that is what we have to know. It's not fair to the farmers and the workers of the valley to bear the entire brunt when they may not be the cause. And that's why we asked for this, that's why we demanded it, that's why we continue to advocate for it, and frankly, that's why I got in front of the Secretary in his own department headquarters in a big meeting like this one we're having today, and said we need fire trucks and red lights and sirens at this crisis, not business as usual. Well, we got the NSA study out of that conversation. Frankly, that was part of the United California delegation and others advocating. Senator Feinstein, Senator Boxer, all advocated for the review of the biological opinions. Manuel Cunha, please.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis. I think everybody can hear me. The first thing is I want to thank everybody that's taken the time, especially the farmers. Of course, they're here because there's no water, so they're not farming. Pretty well makes sense. It's not they would be out making money, creating jobs in the markets. Two major questions to the national boys. Ken Salazar, if we could pass back to the Secretary. We mentioned to him, I would say, in the meetings that I personally been in, and farmers in Mendota, made very clear that the banks are now on a call of our farmers. You might be on a call for the water to save the whale. I think it's the blue whale now that's being looked at. There might be an endangered species in the delta, or the killer whale. I'm not sure anymore what you look for. But the point you need to make is that our farmers are now on a call with the banks. Just getting off of the Federal Reserve Board, I hear what U.S. agriculture is contributing to the United States Treasury. It's huge. It's big. It's bigger than the auto industry that has been subsidized. But you have got to go back because we don't have 2 years with the banks. The banks are calling on their loans. Let me give you a little tidbit. I know a farmer that was approached by the National Sierra Club to buy his loan from the bank to take it out of production totally. Okay? So if you want to do that to 5 million acres, then God help you. The next thing that I have a concern, the banks are not loaning money, as mentioned, for Kern County, Westland, you name it. They have to raise the cost of water. Where in the world, and that's a nice word I'm using, do they get the funds if the banks don't loan them that money? Because they can't. They're not getting productions. The last, it's an issue of economic trade. If we lose our trading partners because we can't produce the product and ship it out of this country or into other states, those buyers are going to go to other countries to take that food. So we lose our markets. People in foreign countries, or Costco or Walmart, they don't care about the problem because they will buy food wherever they can get it the cheapest. So please take back, from the Bureau standpoint, but especially Ken Salazar. He's been here enough times. Congressman Costa's brought him here. Dennis has brought him here. You guys have put his feet to the fire. Apparently he hasn't walked on enough coals that are hot rather than just cool. Or coming into California, going to the Sierra Nevadas, looking at Yosemite, meeting with us in Mendota for 20 minutes, and then going south. Fantastic meeting. 2 seconds for you. So please take that back. We don't have 2 years, and I want to thank Dennis and Jim and Senator Feinstein for continually hammering and making that biological opinion what it needs to do. Look at those other stressors before March is up. We don't have 18 months afterwards to look at the other stressors that Dennis talked about, the congressman's talked about, the water agencies have talked about, that Tom's talked about. So please, it's not a question, it's a demand of asking you to please take that back. We don't have the banks giving us money. They're asking for the loans. And if you want our farmlands to be given up to the Sierra Club, the environmental groups, then you're doing a great job at that. Not you personally, but the agency is. Thank you.
Again, by